The drums and bugles signal the moment the record crowd of over 100,000 has been awaiting. The entrance of President-elect Ronald Reagan.
I remember my freshman year in high school watching the inauguration, really not liking the Reagans so much because, I'd been listening to my parents and, they were like, they're not good for the country, blah, blah, blah. And then I sort of just got caught up in the pageantry of it all and the Hollywoodness, if that's a word, of it all. And, and the sort of devil-may-care, plain-speaking president of the United States, and I'd never heard that before. Remember, we were coming off of a president who had been a peanut farmer and was a Southerner, and so was I.
He's the guy who figures out that at the national level, if you are suave, and if you have Hollywood good looks, and if you're just clever enough, you can beautifully package white supremacy into this serving of polite racism, full of dog whistles and hidden words and phrases with a little wink at the end to let the people in your constituency know that you know what they want. That you can do that really beautifully and not only win the presidency, but change politics forever.
When I was locked up in the early 1970s, it was Black Power this, Black Power that. Everybody had big afros.
Afros, dashikis, the black combs with the fists. It was just a lot of knowledge that was being spreaded. It was cool to be smart, and knowledgeable, especially about your culture.
Tonight, we present a landmark in television entertainment. Roots.
A lot of love, man, a lot of love. I didn't hear the N-word too much back then. It was brother, 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 And I seen the change up until...
But in the 80s, that got out.
We had both inflation and we had a stagnant economy. And we had high unemployment.
You had double-digit unemployment, and you had this thing called explosion inflation, something we're dealing with right now. And that was without a pandemic.
Good evening. I'm speaking to you tonight to give you a report on the state of our nation's economy. I regret to say that we're in the worst economic mess since the Great Depression.
So now he comes out with this plan called Reaganomics, and he's like, we're going to lower the marginal tax rate. And all of that money that the job makers and the business owners are gonna be making because we lower their tax rates, well, that's all gonna trickle down to you, the worker. Now, if it's one thing black folks know, it's that nothing ever trickled down. It's that Reaganomics was absolutely evil, and it represents a distinct turn for the country because profits start to increase exponentially, and wages for the average American worker begin to stagnate. So now your graph is going like this. You told me that the money was gonna trickle down, so the graph is supposed to go like this.
I was young in high school, and money was tough, and crack came out. I watched the crack come into the neighborhoods shortly after, and then the women became bitches, hoes, snicker, and the whole dynamic changed, and I was able to see that. And then the mindset of the majority turned to something that was definitely distasteful, but I didn't realize that then because I also participated in that. Wound up selling crack. We wanted, the nice sneakers, and this was a way to obtain that type of stuff. Back then, the streets loved Ronald Reagan. Drugs was flowing. Later learned that he was supporting an illegal war, with Nicaragua. So they had the coke coming in, the money was coming from the drugs, which was supplying the guns that was going back to Nicaragua so that they could fight this war, right? But the black people paid for it. We didn't benefit financially. Anything we spent, it was on material stuff that we didn't own. And then we didn't buy really, the property or own the blocks that we was fighting and killing over. We was bamboozled, that wasn't a good thing for us at all.
Ronald Reagan was one of the worst things that ever happened to us.
You have a former Hollywood star, Ronald Reagan, as the president of the United States. And a record number of African Americans voted for Reagan, not because they knew Reagan or but they believed in his policy. He was a celebrity. And I think we have to be careful that influences based on celebrity.
I did register as a Republican then. I was young and naive, and I thought that, I wanted to do something different. I didn't really know about politics.
This is where Reagan lived, not far from here. Ron. Hey, Ron, they the ones born. I ain't say shit.
But very quickly after that, I started to mature and grow up and understand what the stakes were. So for me, back then, I was a child. And so when people ask me if I registered as a Republican, if I liked Ronald Reagan initially, I would say, yes, that's absolutely true.
I mean, I ain't in it. Huh? What sucks? Reaganomics sucks? Or tell us something we don't know, mother.
Then I grew up, and then I realized the danger of what a Ronald Reagan presidency was doing to the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
In the Reagan years, 8 long years, there was drawback, there was pullback from civil rights.
Selfless dedication and uncompromising determination to see the King Holiday Bill pass at great personal sacrifice. There are so many whom I want to thank for this historic day, and I hope to have that opportunity sometime between now and the time that the bill is signed. I want to thank President Reagan, who says he will sign the bill into law. We will be waiting for that date.
He did sign into law begrudgingly. He signed into law the Martin Luther King holiday, but he did everything possible to try to undermine affirmative action. His attorney general and civil rights director in his administration both attempted to water down affirmative action programs in any way they can. They filed cases in the courts, and even though Reagan signed an extension of the Voting Rights Act, it was really more rhetorical than anything. It was white America in the 1950s. I think that was his motto. That's when he was a television star in the 1950s. And his frame of reference, were American movies. The type in which there were white middle-class families, and if there were African Americans, they were servants there. Everyone seemed happy. Kids went to school. They didn't cause any trouble. That kind of mythology. And so that was his frame of reference.
Make America Great Again is about making America go back again. It's about making America establish white supremacy again. It's about making America celebrate its efforts to keep certain minority groups down.
President Reagan said that he did not support the Equal Rights Amendment, but he did support equal rights for women, and he felt that legislative solutions could be found and regulatory solutions could be found to see to it that women were treated equally. Do you see that happening?
No. It will take not only my lifetime, but my daughter's lifetimes, and then Laura was 17 yesterday. I mean, it's a human rights, it's a civil rights issue. There is no reason, no really valid reason, why women who are over 50% of the population should be treated unfairly. I think the Equal Rights Amendment is a necessary statute amendment that must be passed. I just hope that we can convince the president to do so.
Reagan, had this kind of charm, frankly. He was called the Teflon president. He tended to focus on foreign affairs.
Words considered outrageous at the time, like calling the Soviet Union an evil empire and demanding from them something no one thought possible.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
He was very strident, and that appealed to many Americans, who thought these were the best days again of the United States.
It was a really ugly time to have HIV. And the silence of the president spoke volumes to people with HIV. The first CDC documented cases of AIDS was in 1981. People were dying from AIDS, and the President of the United States thought it was the measles and that it would go away. Senator Jesse Helms introduced a legislation that people with HIV/AIDS should be removed from society and placed on an island.
A young woman who up until recently was a respected nurse prepares to inject heroin into her neck. The use of contaminated needles has led to over 200,000 addicts in the city contracting the virus. In the Bronx, one baby in every 42 is now born infected.
There was a parallel to STDs in black women and the use of crack cocaine. 51% of African American women back in those days were infected either through injection drug use or sex with an injection drug user. And so on the fringe, those people with AIDS were undesirables. And so when we talk about, it wasn't that it was just white men that were dying, but that there were black people who were injection drug users who were also dying.
I'm not proud of even having taken part of that era, because now looking at the damage that's done, and knowing that I played a part in that, it's still being repaired to this day. I didn't think about it on a political level because I was a capitalist at that time making money off the crack. I watched the police department, I watched the politicians not care about it at first. And then I watched when certain deaths happened, and like when the cop got killed, Edward Burns.
Only days ago, in broad daylight, a policeman was shot dead in his patrol car. A drugs boss is said to have ordered the murder from his prison cell.
I watched the change after certain events. So I know, really they didn't care before these certain events got all this exposure.
Had it been white women, Reagan would have done something immediately. I mean, when you think about the difference between how America addressed the crack cocaine epidemic with how we've addressed the meth epidemic, it's like night and day, because it was mostly white people who were dying from meth, as opposed to mostly black people whose community was plagued by crack cocaine. In '84, Jesse Jackson was running for president and talking about AIDS. Ronald Reagan didn't mention AIDS out of his mouth until 1985. And that's what made Jesse Jackson so important. That's what made people reach out to him, because he was inclusive. He was an inclusive candidate, and he was incredibly progressive. You have to think about Jesse Jackson was the most progressive candidate since McGovern in '72.
Jackson's candidacy has excited the black community in a way no leader predicted.
It was a wave of excitement, and I was wrapped up all in it. You know, I moved to Washington, D.C. as the Deputy National Youth Director for the campaign.
For more than 20 years, Reverend Jesse Jackson has been among those at the forefront of America's great civil rights movement, helping this nation move closer to its highest democratic ideals. During the course of this presidential campaign, Reverend Jackson has reached the hearts and minds of millions of Americans. He's brought the concerns of the poor and the disadvantaged to the forefront of our national political debate. His campaign has brought hope to many who had given up hope and has brought millions of Americans into the political process for the first time. Reverend Jackson, I am very pleased that you are here with us this morning. I hope that our platform will speak out clearly for the ideals of peace and justice.
Thank you very much. And there were a lot of folks in the Democratic Party then, progressives and liberals in the Democratic Party, who wanted an alternative to Ronald Reagan.
In 1980, Ronald Reagan declared that his election victory amounted to a mandate from the people that government should no longer have the basic responsibility to ensure social progress and harmony. He then proceeded to shift massive amounts of funding from the social budget to the military sector and create huge deficits through tax cuts that benefited the rich, all of which caused untold misery and suffering among the already poor and disadvantaged and the new poor as well.
He tried to build bridges outside of the black community to labor unions, farmers, and folks like that.
He was talking about a single-payer healthcare reform. You know, he was talking about labor, just all the issues that were important to people who had less than in this country. This was the first time African Americans had seen a man on national television, had seen a man in a debate with white men and stand his ground.
He did well in some of the primaries, and his stumbling block was he did make a comment that was considered anti-Semitic while he was running in New York City, which was not a very apt kind of comment to make, and that hurt him a great deal.
Long before the polls closed in many parts of the country, Republicans were already celebrating victory in a race which, nearing its conclusion, was never a race at all. From early evening, Mr. Reagan's triumphal electoral march through 49 of the 50 states in America and Mr. Mondale's inexorable slide to electoral disaster had become clear.
Tonight, we rejoice in our democracy. We rejoice in the freedom of a wonderful people, and we accept their verdict. And I thank Geraldine Ferraro. We're very proud of Jerry. Very proud of Jerry. We didn't win, but we made history, and that fight has just begun.
In '88, the enthusiasm was beyond anything I had ever seen. Jesse Jackson received 91% of the African American vote in 1988.
The Willie Horton ad is birth of a nation in a new era.
There's a story about a fella named Willie Horton.
Willie Horton.
Convicted murderer.
Convicted murderer, Willie Horton.
Willie Horton. Weekend vacations.
Weekend passes. Cold-blooded.
Convicted murderer.
First degree.
Convicted murderer.
Killer. Murderer.
They rape people.
Raped his wife.
They maul people.
And if that's the America you want, keep on voting for Democrats. But if you want to take your America back, vote for us.
You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger, that hurts you.